And so ThorChain Rune here is really unique. I've never seen any other cryptocurrency do this. When we look at the data, we really have to treat it differently. We should really do the following. We should definitely look at... Hi, in this video we're going to look at ThorChain Rune again. A second time in just a week. Last time was when ThorChain was just at around $5 US. Now it's already at $7.85. The last video will also come referenced in the outro of this video, so you definitely want to check that out. In this video we're going to look at something unique to ThorChain. So ThorChain is going up massively. This should be no news to you. It's now at market rank 46 with a market cap of 2.6 billion roughly. Now there is a problem with that performance though, right? This is the recent rally over here. There is a problem, and that's simply the volatility. Look at how much temporarily ThorChain went down. This is a decline of 83% in 2 months. So this happened several times, right? Or at least this kind of a magnitude happened several times. This is 79%. Then here in August of 2020, we see a 70% decline. So you definitely want to time this somewhat, right? The overall trend is positive. It's maybe somewhat slowing down now to a certain degree. One might argue that we are in a sideways trading range, either sideways trading or bull flag, however you want to look at this. But you definitely want to time this right. And the problem is when we just look at these trend lines here, you can't really test this, right? You can't really simulate buying and selling. So you don't really have an objective measure of where to actually buy and where to actually sell. Now still, just because we've done this exercise here quickly, this is another 70% from here, by the way. So this upper ceiling here is at $13.50 roughly. But what I like to do is I like to look at strategies that we can simulate buying and selling for, that we can backtest. And one of those strategies is using moving averages. So when you go to tradingview.com and you click over here, you can add a moving average simply by clicking here. Then you get this thin blue line. Let's change this a little bit. Let's make this a bit more visible. Let's maybe draw this in red and do this a bit thicker. And what you then have is an input. You've got a length of that moving average. You can change how this moving average is calculated. So a moving average simply takes the past days, right? It looks at, in this example, say the last 40 days, takes all of those prices, adds them up and divides them by 40. That's how we get to one of those prices. And the idea is that we want to get rid of this short-term fluctuation over here, right? And then we just get a representation of the price movements without all of these fluctuations, just to get a general gauge of where the price is actually currently headed. And so one trading strategy is to, for example, buy whenever the price is above the moving average. So we follow this positive momentum, but that we sell whenever the price is below the moving average. So in this case, if you would have sold over here and then rebought over here, you would have gotten an entry price here in July of 2021 that would have been 60% lower. So we could have bought more than double the amount of Rune tokens had we sold over here and bought over here. So that's the idea of the trading strategy. You want to somewhat time the market and not always be in the market. When you are in cash, you might want to invest in something else. You might want to use it for DeFi farming, for being in stablecoins, whatever your defensive strategy is. But you want to have some kind of a backtestable toggle to say, are we currently in a bull market or in a bear market? And so for this video, I've done exactly that backtest. So this is one of the results over here. In white, we see the ThorChain Rune price. In blue, we see the result of the backtest. So what you can see is that sometimes we are completely in cash. So our portfolio line is completely flat, whereas ThorChain Rune is going down massively. Let's change this. This is now a linear scale, right? With like 0, 5, 10, 15. Let's change this to a logarithmic scale where each step here is a 10x from each other. This way we can look better at the early prices. We really see what happened here in the early prices. This is the exact same chart to what we've seen here before, but this is now just on a different scale, plotted or visualized a little bit differently. And so again, when we look at this, ThorChain Rune went down here by 80%, but this trading strategy didn't go down by that much, right? It just went down a little bit and then went sideways because the price was below the moving average. Now this in itself doesn't look that impressive, right? The risk might be somewhat mitigated, right? These downside movements from top to bottom might not be as severe, so you could potentially maybe lever this up a little bit, not too much, but maybe by 1.5 or something, you would then outperform. But the risk versus reward is maybe a bit better because the reward is pretty much comparable. The risk is a bit less though. Now the question when doing something like this is, right, when following such a strategy, the main question is, what kind of a duration do we actually want to use to apply this buying and selling? Because in the end, that's the main determinant, right? It's determinant, are we going to be long or short? Are we going to be in the market or out of the market? And so if you've got a very long duration, you might not be as reactive, right? You might see more of a crash over here, or you might see more of a recovery. And so you're in the market when we have already crashed quite a bit. You're still outside of the market while we are already recovering here. When you get a shorter duration, you might be reacting quicker. You might exit faster. You might enter faster. But on the other hand, when you get too short with this, let's say you take only the 10-day moving average, then you get a lot of bad signals, right? You get in and out of the market all the time. And so that also incurs trading fees, it incurs slippage, gas fees. And so you don't want that, right? You want to get the optimal length for your moving average when following such a strategy. And that's why I want to do that simulation. That's why I want to find out what is the best duration for a moving average when trading ThorChain Rune. And this here is the result. On the x-axis, we see the duration of the moving average. So 1 just means we look at yesterday's price, all the way up to the 52-day moving average. Now we're looking here at the simple moving average. There's also an exponential one. We're now looking here at the simple moving average. And what we see in black here is the return we would have gotten by buying and holding. And so what we see here is that following this strategy would have actually not benefited us in terms of return. No matter what kind of a moving average we take in order to exit the market when the price turns around, we would always have underperformed buying and holding. Now that's not too nice, right? But what about exponential moving averages now? So when we go here to trading view, we can also add another moving average, right? We can look for the exponential moving average. And the exponential moving average works slightly differently. So it takes more weight to the recent data. So when we look at the entire, say, 50 days, then it would take more weight for whatever price was yesterday or the day before yesterday compared to what happened 50 days ago. And so this way we react a little bit quicker to the price movements. So you might still take the 50-day moving average. Let's maybe draw this time in blue, for example, right? Let's have the 50-day exponential moving average and compare this to the 50-day simple moving average. If we do that, we can see the 50-day is slightly closer to the prices, right? Because it weighs the recent data a bit more. And so maybe the exponential moving average works better. And so that's why I did that. I did a backtest of the exponential moving average. Let's see how that works. So again, we've got our return chart. This is our exponential moving average result. So let's look at both of it at the same time. Here we've got the simple moving average and the exponential moving average. And we can see no matter how we approach this, getting outside of the market according to the moving averages in order to trade ThorChain Rune, in order to not be exposed to this kind of a volatility, is still not a good idea. You've got all of this volatility, but even if we backtest this, even if we simulate the best parameter for a moving average, that kind of a strategy would not have worked for ThorChain Rune. And I found this very, very interesting because this is the very first time that I've seen something like this in a cryptocurrency. When I looked at all other cryptocurrencies, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana, Phantom. I've done quite a few backtests with this, Avalanche. I've never seen something like this. This, for example, here is the exponential moving average for Ethereum, which is the best exponential moving average for Ethereum, and that's the 14-day. So the 14-day is not really what's important here. What's more important is that all of those moving averages are above the buy and hold line, except the 52-day, right? But besides that, trading Ethereum or trading Bitcoin, these charts, they all look pretty similar. It all outperforms just buying and holding. That's very different to ThorChain Rune. So what does this tell us? You probably don't want to overtime this, even though this is very, very enticing, as in maybe it's a good idea to buy low and sell high when the volatility is that impressive, right? When it's like 400% almost from bottom to top. Even though we've got all of these price movements. You have to be very, very careful with taking your approach here. Ideally, you still want to have something that's backtestable. Maybe you want to alternatively use the relative strength index. So you could try something like that and maybe buy whenever that is comparatively low, right? So you could buy maybe over here and then sell when this is comparatively high. Then again, buy when it's relatively low. But it's no perfect approach either. If we look at this right now, it's comparatively high, right? But as seen here in the past, it doesn't mean that we can't go any higher, right? So we have been pretty high over here and then still at this point went up by another 100%. So by no means is the RSI perfect either, but still I think it makes sense to have something that's backtested in order to try to time this. The simple moving average or the exponential moving average is not the right tool to time ThorChain Rune. So I'd recommend, based on those results, not to look at them. Analyze this chart, this price action in a different way. Find a different approach. Even though it does work with most cryptocurrencies, it doesn't for ThorChain Rune. Now, if you haven't yet subscribed, you should definitely do this. I publish videos every single day. And of course, if you haven't yet liked the video, that would be appreciated as well. It will help the channel grow. Now, I definitely want to check out the premium membership in case you haven't done this yet, to be found at thebitcoinstrategy.com. The link is in the video description. The reason why you want to look at this is because all of these backtests that I show over here, they are published in more detail for the premium membership. So you've got tutorials on how to build such a backtest in Microsoft Excel. You've also got a statistics library where you can actually download the exact Excel sheet. So tutorials on how to do all of this by yourself, it can be found here at thebitcoinstrategy.com. There's also other things, of course, an exclusive Telegram group where you can ask me questions, where you can ask me to do a specific backtest that you're interested in if you've got a specific strategy. And last but not least, daily market updates where I discuss Bitcoin, where I discuss Ethereum, and of course, various altcoins. Last but not least, feel free to check out this video here. This is the last ThorChain Rune analysis. It's slightly different. That had been published when ThorChain was still at $5 US. See you in that video. Bye.